Hello and welcome to EKU Online's eCast series. Today our guest is Dr. April Blakely from the College of Education. She is an associate professor of educational technology, leadership, and literacy education at Eastern Kentucky University. She is also the director of the College of Education's online learning programs. She earned her doctorate at East Tennessee State University in educational leadership and policy analysis. Prior to her work at EKU, Dr. Blakely spent 13 years as a classroom teacher, middle grades coordinator, and special programs coordinator at the ETSU Laboratory School and in the Aiken County, South Carolina public school system. She is first and foremost a teacher, and in her writing, research, and professional development efforts, it's the blended voice of practitioner and administrator that is always heard. Currently, her research focuses on the integration of learning technologies in teacher preparation in P-12 schools. She presents regularly at conferences, including the Association of Literacy Educators and Researchers. Well, welcome, Dr. Blakely, and please let me take this opportunity to personally thank you for your partnership with eCampus. We appreciate all your hard work and your willingness to help train other faculty members on the intricacies of online teaching. You've always been a huge supporter of eCampus, and for that, you have our most sincere thanks and gratitude.
Thank you, Steve. It's a pleasure to chat with you today.
Well, Dr. Blakely, as the online coordinator for the College of Education here at EKU, would you please tell us a little bit about the programs being offered online and something about the students that these programs attract?
Sure, I love talking about our online programs, and we've got a lot of them. We've got MAT, MAED, and EDS programs within our online portfolio within the College of Education, served among 2 departments. We cover almost every aspect of teacher and school administrator licensure and certification within our degree programs, and they're all 100% online. MAT programs are for individuals seeking an initial or first teaching certification. This is attractive for anyone holding a bachelor's degree and seeking a career shift into teacher education. The MAT degree is a fast route to teacher licensure that can allow individuals to teach full-time while also completing their studies at the same time. They're paid full rank 3 teacher salary in Kentucky while they go to school for 5 semesters. Then the MAED degree routes cover a wide gamut of advanced licensure programs from early childhood education through elementary, middle, and secondary schools. They also include specialized degrees in library sciences, gifted education, literacy, special education, and educational leadership. And not to be undone, then we have our EDS, our education specialist degree, for those seeking administrative leadership in schools and districts, all the way through superintendent licensure.
Wow, that's a lot. Well, let me ask you this question, Dr. Blakely. What is the advantage to the teacher for pursuing a master's degree in education? I mean, I believe it used to be a requirement that a teacher begin a master's program within 5 years of teaching and then completing that degree within 10 years. I don't think that's any longer the case. If not, why then a master's?
You're correct. Kentucky did change its regulations a little over a year ago to no longer require a master's degree to obtain rank 2 or rank 1 status in Kentucky. There are a lot of us in education and in the profession that were very disappointed by that decision, because we know that the research says that we are constantly discovering new ways to integrate academic technology to advance theory and teaching, meaning that teachers must gain new skills to best impact their students, the P-12 learners in our schools. Because of this, many teachers do choose to return to school and obtain a master's degree, even though it's no longer required in Kentucky. These degrees allow them to hone their abilities and become expert educators. Teachers who earn their advanced degrees show a deeper understanding and commitment to the profession, allowing them to more easily modify curricular goals, adjust teaching methods, and enter leadership positions to enact system-wide changes in education they wish to seek. And when I pull out that piece about adjusting teaching methods, it's some of our mastered and rank one teachers in the schools that are doing the best job right now of adapting their teaching methods to a virtual world. And they've been doing that now successfully for well over 6 months.
Well, a 2019 article came out in a publication called Kentucky Teacher, which is a publication of the Kentucky Department of Education, and it cited 5,000 open teaching positions statewide, and also a 13% decline in the number of college students pursuing education degrees. To what do you attribute these statistics? And ultimately, what does it mean for the students in our Kentucky classrooms?
Well, there are a lot of researchers out there studying this topic and trying to find solutions, but I can only give you my perspective, which is that currently, unfortunately, the perception of teacher education is that it's an undesirable degree. That's likely based on complaints about lack of professional autonomy and low wages. In a remarkable sign of discontent, teachers walked out of their classrooms in over a half dozen states during the last year, including Kentucky. They were frustrated with low pay, pension issues, crumbling classrooms, and years of cuts to school funding. Did you know that almost half of college graduates who become teachers leave the profession within a few years? In our programs at EKU, we've worked quite hard to update and modernize the curricula to better prepare candidates, most of whom lack experience teaching in our current diverse student population. There's more of a focus on diversity education and more partnerships with school districts that serve low-income and minority students so that our teacher graduates at EKU can gain experience in those settings and hopefully have better retention in their careers long term. The last thing that we want is for teachers to drop out of the profession at about 5 to 10 years. We would like them to stay veteran teachers for a full 30-year career.
Well, how do you get young people, the traditional age students, how do you get them excited about what, in my opinion, is one of the greatest professions that there can be, and that is of a teacher? How do you get them excited when they hear and see these kinds of things on the news? You know, the wages and all the issues that you brought up. What can we do to turn it around and get people excited?
Sure, it's not unusual to hear a new undergraduate student, 18, just starting college and entering an education degree, tell us the stories that they've had with their families that frequently say something like, the minute I decided to do this, my mom was like, are you sure? People were like, you won't get paid right, you don't get good benefits, it's long days and emotionally taxing. You know, most of it comes down to there's a lot of responsibility and not enough time given to accomplish the tasks of teaching each day. They have to overcome all of that to decide to become a teacher candidate and seek a teaching profession. But you know what? They're still doing it in large numbers because they're dedicated to the mission of teacher education, which is to change the lives of the next generation of American citizens to this country. They want to shape the future, and we want to enable them to do that. So we try to build that passion, and then we try to make sure that they are equipped with the skills and talents and training to be successful at that job. And it's a very complex and multifaceted job these days.
Well, you hit on some of this earlier, Dr. Blakely, but there has been some cultural turmoil of teachers, including the 2019 clash with then Governor Matt Bevin. As she talked about the walking out of teachers out of the classroom, some general dissatisfaction with the U.S. Secretary of Education, some negative press concerning teachers not wanting to go back to the classrooms in the midst of this pandemic. Do you think, in your opinion, the teaching profession, does it still garner the respect and high honor it once had?
I hope it's gaining more respect and that we're building that, because I believe that the pandemic has given parents an insight and a view sort of behind the lens of what developing a teaching day is like. And I think that people are becoming more self-aware of what teaching is all about. So it will take time, but I'm hoping that there is a bright side to this horrible pandemic that we face, in that people are more aware of the work that teachers do every day. Now, that doesn't negate that we still have obstacles to overcome. Schools are struggling to retain highly qualified individuals to teach, and that struggle is toughest in high poverty schools. Low teacher pay is reducing the attractiveness of teaching jobs, and that's an even bigger problem in high poverty schools again. Teachers have long been underpaid compared with similarly educated workers in other professions. Most of our teachers do obtain a master's degree, and many go on to receive 30 hours of training beyond a master's, what we call a rank 1 in Kentucky. So imagine someone in another career who has 60 graduate hours of coursework, the equivalent of a specialist degree in another field, and what their salary would be compared to a teaching salary. Um, you know, Schools sometimes are tough environments. They can be demoralizing for teachers, especially in high poverty schools where student absenteeism, class cutting, apathy, lack of parental involvement, health issues, and poverty are aspects of teaching that people face every day. Um, we have larger numbers of teachers reporting stress and fear for their safety. The pandemic has escalated that too. Um, and then there's the part that I believe we in higher education and in the master's and degree programs that we offer have the ability to impact. And that's ensuring that candidates get the right training, that we work with districts in our partnerships to support early career support and professional development opportunities that allow them to be more successful. It takes an army of support to train and motivate and to enable teachers to do their best job every day in the classroom. And that's work that is well worth it from everyone that's involved in this profession. And it gives me a great deal of uplifting spirit to be a part of that every day.
Now, I want to shift gears just a bit here. You were the recipient of an International Blackboard Catalyst Award last year, and that is quite an honor and an achievement. You're known as an excellent online instructor. So what advice do you have for those who are just going into online teaching? I mean, what are some of the essentials that they need to keep in mind when entering into this world of online?
Well, that's a big question. I'll try to cover a couple of basics. I think I taught my first online class about 15 years ago. I started teaching at EKU online my first year here, which has been 11 years now. And I wasn't a great online instructor the first or even second time that I tried it. I think I redeveloped that first course at EKU at least 4 times before I was happy with my student performance data. So I would teach it, then take notes, and the next semester edit the content and things. But what we were doing in the College of Education at the same time was sort of developing a template or a shell for how we roll out courses and to do it systematically, because we were thinking about it from the student's perspective, their view of the course and what they saw. And I found the most valuable tool for me was to put myself in the lens of the student viewing this course as a participant, and to think about all of the needs that surround them to be successful in this course. And it was when I made that shift pedagogically that my courses began to evolve and change a little bit. It became less about picking out a cool technology tool and more about what outcomes with students that I wish to accomplish, and then figuring out in a backwards design framework the best way to accomplish that in a virtual world. So I began picking less tools to include in my courses and trying to master the basics first. I wanted to evolve beyond discussion boards and blogs and some of the tools in Blackboard, certainly, and my courses today look very different than they did 10 years ago. But what I was always conscious of was not tackling too much at one time, mastering a tool and helping my students to master it, and having dual outcomes, because we work in the realm of teacher education, modeling tools that my students could then use with their P12 learners in the field, hopefully too. So that's a big first step. Don't tackle too much. Take time to hone your skills, learn your educational technology that is assistive, and then polish delivery of the content in a virtual world.
Well, just as a follow-up to that, in your opinion, do you think that the rigor is still there with online teaching when you compare it to face-to-face?
Oh, certainly. There's no doubt in my mind that a polished online instructor can deliver content that cannot be delivered in a face-to-face environment when done well and with a high degree of attention to the learner outcomes. And I'll give you just a small, easy example of that. Students in a face-to-face classroom, think about a class of 30 or even a lecture hall where there's 50 or 75 students. Students enter that environment, sit down, and have the opportunity, unfortunately, to be entirely passive for the length of the class. They might not be called on simply because there's not enough time in a 55-minute lecture for full participation by everyone. It can be stifling, and students don't want to participate. What I have heard over the last few months during the pandemic from faculty who are going online for the first time is that they're sensing an increased level of participation from among their students in discussion boards and other activities that require collaboration, because you can't avoid it. And it's a little bit safer environment for that. So that's just one way I think it's more enriching. I can also work in an environment in virtual where I use sort of a flipped design model. I don't have to take a 55 or an hour and 15-minute face-to-face class and show the video in class, or take time to do some of those passive activities. I can use that time in virtual space and then create a lot of learning opportunities that require engagement and critical thinking and reflection and dialogue. I can give individual feedback to students 7 days a week, 24/7, whenever is necessary, other than just seeing them 2 to 3 days a week. Those are some simple examples of how I think the impact in online can be greater when done successfully and designed well. Now, I'm the first to say that's not occurring right now in every setting, because we're all growing and learning together and evolving. I think students are the most patient participants in our virtual world that can be right now. And they don't expect professors to be perfect right now. They just expect friction points to be limited for them. So again, I would suggest pick 1 or 2 educational technology tools that will impact the curriculum, master them, then layer on other tools. Then overarchingly, faculty need to focus on communication, which can become muddy pretty fast in an online course. React fast to clear up confusion with students, and correct task instructions when they're not clear. Again, students don't expect perfection, but they don't want to be slowed down in their work in a course. So you have to be very responsive to them. Online professors teach 7 days a week, all weekend, 24/7. I'm frequently on email or in my Blackboard shell at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, just sweeping to see if there's anything I need to do. It doesn't take sitting in front of your computer 6 hours a day, but it does require constant monitoring, just like you would monitor your emails all day.
We've talked a lot today about a lot of different things related to the College of Education and education in general. What would you tell a prospective student about why he or she should major in education and why online?
Wow. I would tell them that they're entering one of the most amazing professions in the world, because teachers impact every citizen in this United States. You have the power with the students that you touch during your teaching career to change thousands, if not tens of thousands of lives, because those students go on to have careers of their own and impact others exponentially. The bottom of the day, we are all working in a service-based industry to try and advance our society, and teachers are the core and foundation of that. Ignore the negative hype. Ignore what's said politically. Ignore issues with salary and pension and anything else that dissuades you. If you are going to do a career for 30 plus years, you need to have passion about it. And if teaching is your passion and it's where your heart lies, then it's the right decision for you, and we will support you in accomplishing that. And the MAT degree for unlicensed teachers, an initial licensure graduate degree that can be done in 5 semesters fully online, is certainly a great way to do it. You can keep your current career, or we can find a spot where you can work full-time teaching while you get your licensure and degree. So it's the best of both worlds. And just don't be dissuaded by what happens to downplay the significance, the impact, or the viability of a teaching degree. It's still quite powerful, and we need you.
Well, you've got me excited about it now, so maybe I'll become a teacher as well. That's you put it very succinctly and in terms that I think really appeal and make sense to a lot of people, and I appreciate that statement there. But I want to shift gears now to a personal note. Now, it's my understanding that you are quite the baker, and that baking is a passion of yours. Well, can you tell us a little bit about that, how you got into it, and your baking expertise?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a fun project that I've got going right now. I own Bespoke Bakery and Cafe in Richmond, and it opened in the middle of a pandemic, and we've had a lot of fun with it over the first few months. But I have to say, I'm pretty much a self-taught baker, except for a few pastry classes along the way. My parents did not teach me how to bake. My mom did not teach me how to bake, but my dad was consumed with all things scientific, and I grew up at his side doing carpentry and reading popular science and things. And I found that baking is very scientific. It's very precise and recipe based. And just like a scientist in a lab is conducting an experiment very precisely, baking occurs in the same manner, and I love that about baking. And so I began practicing, and my family responded positively, and I became the lead baker in my family, and finally catered for some restaurants, and have worked here in Kentucky in the cottage food industry. And I just love it, because when you're baking, you're concentrating fully and 100% on baking. And I joke that I could have chosen therapy or baking, and baking was a much better option for me.
Well, do you have a favorite item that you bake?
Do I have a favorite item? I would have to say layer cakes are my specialty, and I'm a master cake decorator and cookie artist, so that's a lot of fun. And a wedding cake that I just did is in the current issue, a feature in a Lexington magazine this month. So it's a lot of fun that we're having with this, but certainly cakes are where my passion lies.
All right. Well, that sounds it sounds very good. It's interesting to find out the different passions and hobbies and other interests of faculty members, because it varies so much, and it's exciting to see the differences in the expertise levels that you have in different disciplines. So
Thank you.
yeah.
And the bakery's been fun. You would there are so many EKU faculty and students that come over here and drop in, and the people that I see that I would never see in the middle of a pandemic, but because I'm working in an office in the bakery most days to do my EKU job, I get to see a lot of people and have meetings with my graduate students that need to see me face to face. They just come over to the bakery now instead of my EKU office, and it's still great to have that that touch with students. Even when you're in an online program, it doesn't mean that you don't have face-to-face opportunities with your faculty.
Very good. Well, is there anything else, Dr. Blakely, that you'd like to share with our audience today?
No, I just want to say thank you for chatting with me today and giving me an opportunity to talk about a few issues in the education profession. And, you know, if anyone ever has a question about anything, or there's a young student or a career professional hoping to change jobs, please contact me. If you have a student and you're in an EKU program that you think needs to be a teacher, I want to talk to them. And I promise you I won't sugarcoat it. We'll talk about the realities of teaching. And at the end of the day, if that's who you want to be, then we'll figure out a way to get you into that career.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Blakely. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you.